I wanted to talk about the 3 stages of getting good at something or reaching a goal, not because I've reached a lot of my goals or because I'm good at tons of things, but just so I can think out loud about how I can master certain habits and how I can get closer to where I want to be. And maybe there's somebody listening to this that could take one little thing from this video. So in the beginning, what you need to do is you need to get over the fear of failure and just get started. So there's that thing that you've been putting off for maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year. Maybe you've said you want to start a YouTube channel or a TikTok or a newsletter or an online business. There's something where the first step might be as simple as paying to get a website set up, or getting 5 emails inputted into an Excel sheet, and that's the very first step. And you've been overthinking it, and you don't want to fail, and you don't want others to judge you, so you haven't started with that very simple first step. The second stage is where you've started, but you don't have the consistency. So this is where you're lacking discipline at a certain stage. Maybe you're making 1 call on a Monday and then 4 calls on Wednesday, and then you take a few days off and you make 2 calls the next week. Unless you are consistently making the calls, you won't view yourself as a disciplined person. That's an example from sales. Or maybe if you're an athlete, maybe you practice really hard for 3 hours on Monday, and then it's 1 hour on Tuesday, and then you take 4 days off, and the next day you practice is for 3 hours. So you might have the intensity that is sporadic, but you don't have the consistency that will take you to the next level. And there's no evidence at this point that you are a disciplined person who can say they want to do something and then stick with it. So instead of, this is something that Alex Hormozi and Chris Williamson talk about, instead of shouting affirmations in the mirror, I am a disciplined person, I'm a hard worker. Instead of trying to trick yourself into thinking that you're somebody that your actions don't back up, what it takes is just consistently doing the boring work over time. And that doesn't mean you need the high intensity in the beginning. In my opinion, if I were to start a new habit, I would go very low intensity in the beginning to make it as easy as possible on myself. So instead of requiring myself to make 50 calls a day, 7 days a week, I might require myself to make 5 calls a day, 5 days a week. And then after I've proven for a month that I'm capable of doing 5 calls a day, the next month I might try to do 7 or 8 a day and just slowly increase the standard for myself. So I have a group chat that I'm in where I track my habits and I take a screenshot. And for each day, I send this to others that I'm close to that hold me accountable. And I'll tell them, okay, I wanted to script 2 videos and post 1. And there's a check mark if I did that. I wanted to do a workout, or I wanted to be done with my phone and laptop at 10:30 so I can get a good amount of sleep, or 150 grams of protein. Whatever it is that you're tracking, the first step is getting over the fear of failure, proving to yourself that you can even get started with having 1 day of 150 grams of protein, or 1 week where you work out 4 times a week. And then the discipline comes in where you need the consistency. So with a few of my habits, I'm at the consistency point where I can go 1 week, 4 weeks, 8 weeks in a row of doing what I need to do for certain habits. And then that's the point where I need to up the standard. And so once you up the standard, you change from 10 calls a day to 15 calls a day, or from 3 workouts a week to 4 workouts a week. And the hardest part, in my opinion, is the stage that I'm at right now, which is the patience stage. So you're doing the inputs that in your head you would think would lead to the results, but you're not really seeing many changes. Maybe your physique is improving, but just barely, or especially in business, I think it's possible to be building a skill but not see the results of it for a long period of time. As far as you might be getting better at something, you might be way better at something today than you were 2 years ago, but your income could be the exact same as it was 2 years ago. And so then it just comes down to, if you're not going to raise your standards and do more inputs, how long can you stick to something without seeing the results of it before you give up? So maybe you've been a real estate agent for 3 months and you've been calling every day, but you're not seeing results. That doesn't mean you should hop to e-commerce or drop shipping or a whole different industry and say real estate isn't for me. So I think in the beginning, the biggest thing is getting over that fear of failure, which the way that I would recommend getting over the fear of failure is you could do a post online saying that you're going to do something, and then you have other people that are then watching to see if you do it. So one of my mentors said on Instagram, I'm going to post one piece of content per day. And he told that to about 3,000 people. And so it made it a lot harder the next few weeks when he wanted to have a day where he didn't want to record content or script it or post it. He had 3,000 people that were watching him to see if he was going to stay true to his word or if he was just motivated for a second but not ready to get started and stick to something. So then he actually began posting one piece of content per day. He stuck to that. He got over the fear of failure and he just got started. And then for the second part with the consistency, that's where it helps to have people around you that actually care about if you're sticking to your goals. Download an app called Inertium, INERTIUM, which is a goal tracker where you put down what your goals are for each week and how many of the 7 days per week you want to do them. Some goals like exercise, you might not want to do all 7 days, maybe just 5 or 6, or for calls, maybe you don't want to be calling every day. You might want a day off to rest. So you can adjust the frequency of those goals and then take a screenshot of if you hit your goals for that day and send it to a group chat of people who will actually hold you accountable to those. Once you have the consistency of knowing that you can stick to something for a few days or a few weeks in a row, something you previously thought would be hard to stick to, that's when you start to get the momentum and change the beliefs about yourself and what you're capable of and what you can stick to. And then lastly, the third part is the consistency. When it comes down to you're doing the daily inputs, you're doing what you need to consistently, but the patience isn't there yet. You're starting to expect results in an unrealistic amount of time. You think, Arnold, I can't even pronounce his last name, Arnold Schwarzenegger, do you think he expected to see bodybuilding results in 1 month or 3 months or 6 months? It took him a very long time to achieve the physique that got him the recognition from others that he was looking for and the satisfaction from himself that he was able to commit to something and stick to it. So just like a bodybuilder wouldn't expect results overnight, I think it's important for me and others to be very patient in the sense that you can do something consistently but not see the fruits of that labor for a very long time. And it's possible that you can be consistent and patient and not get to where you want to go because you're being consistent at too low of a level of volume. So maybe you're working out every day, but you're not working out with that much intensity and you're not doing that many reps. Just because you're consistent, you might get a little bit better, a little bit more in shape, but you're not going to get to where you want to be unless the volume increases. So that's when you consult that group of people in the group chat and you say, guys, when do you think it's time for me to raise my standards for myself? This is something that I recently asked my accountability group chat. I said, when is it time to raise my standards? And I was told that when you start to get comfortable, that's when it's time to raise the standards. I listened to that advice. I realized that although I was consistent, I'd gotten comfortable. So then I changed on that Inertium app what my standards were for each day to be a little bit less comfortable, a little bit tougher for me to actually achieve. So the 3 steps to any journey. First, get rid of the fear of failure by getting started. Second, build the discipline that's needed to reach your goals by being consistent. Use a group of people that are close to you to hold you accountable to develop that consistency. And third, be patient for the results, being mindful that they're not going to come in just 1 month or maybe 6 months or maybe even a year of being consistent without seeing results. And also with the patience, be aware that you might need to, along the way, raise your standards of yourself, raise what you're doing every day or every week to actually reach the goals that you think you're capable of.